You know what hurts the most? It's not pain from the surgery. It's the sound of laughter echoing from my parents' phone while I was lying half-conscious on a hospital bed, praying to wake up. They were dancing at a party. I was fighting for my life, and the worst part? I had paid for the dress my mom wore that night. My name is Clara Morgan. I'm 26, born and raised in California. People always said my parents were classy. My dad, Richard Morgan, wore suits even at breakfast. My mom, Helen, never missed a salon appointment. To the world, we looked perfect. Smiling family pictures, fancy house, weekend brunches. But behind those smiles lived a truth nobody saw. The truth was, I was the one keeping that perfect life alive. Dad's business failed years ago. Mom's credit cards maxed out. Bills kept piling, and someone had to step in. That someone was me, their only daughter. At 19, I dropped out of college to work full-time. 2 jobs, sometimes 3. My friends were out chasing dreams. I was chasing rent payments. I kept telling myself, they're my parents. Family helps family, but I never noticed that love had turned into duty. Every night, I came home to find my parents sitting in the living room, watching TV, lights bright, air conditioner on full blast. I'd open my paycheck and watch it disappear into their bills. When I tried to talk about saving or moving to a smaller place, Dad's face turned cold. Don't be ungrateful, Clara, he'd say. We raised you. It's your turn to support us. Mom would just sigh and whisper, you wouldn't want your father to look bad in front of his friends, would you? I said nothing, but inside something started to crack. They didn't see the exhaustion in my eyes. They didn't notice how my hands trembled after 12-hour shifts. All they cared about was image, their comfort, their parties, their reputation. It started with pain in my stomach. I ignored it for days. I couldn't afford to take time off, but one night, while standing behind the counter at the cafe, the world tilted. I collapsed. When I opened my eyes, I was in a hospital bed. Tubes, BP machines. A nurse told me I needed urgent surgery. My appendix had burst. If I come even an hour later, I might not have survived. My hands shook as I reached for my phone. I called my mom first. No answer. Then Dad. Straight to voicemail. I texted them both. I'm in the hospital. Please come. Minutes turned into an hour. No reply. The nurse came back and said, Ma'am, we need to operate soon. Any family coming? I whispered, they're on their way. But deep down, I wasn't sure. I woke up after surgery, heavy, dizzy, dry-mouthed. The nurse smiled gently. The surgery went well. My first question was, did my parents come? She hesitated. I'm sorry. No one came. But we can call them again if... I shook my head. My heart ached more than my wound. Hours later, I finally opened my phone. There it was. Dozens of notifications. Photos, tags, stories. My parents at a luxury hotel ballroom. My dad in a tuxedo. My mom in a sparkling dress, the one I paid for. The caption under one of Mom's posts read, A night to remember. Love celebrating success with my amazing husband. I stared at the screen. My stomach turned, not from the stitches, but from disbelief. They had not just ignored me. They had chosen a party over me. I cried silently, the tears soaking my hospital pillow. That night, something inside me died, but another part, the part they never respected, began to wake up. 3 days later, I got discharged. No one came to pick me up. I took a taxi home. When I opened the door, music was playing. The smell of expensive perfume filled the air. Mom looked surprised. Lo, honey. You're home already? Dad smiled awkwardly. We were about to visit you tomorrow. I said nothing. I just walked past them, clutching the hospital file, but every step echoed with anger. That night, I lay in bed and thought about everything, every bill I paid, every sacrifice, and now this. They did not love me. They loved the life I built for them. So I made a quiet promise to myself. I'll never let them use me again. They'll learn what it feels like when the money stops coming. The next week I told my parents I needed rest. I took time off work, not to heal my body, but to plan. I slowly stopped paying their bills. The electricity bill, I let it slide. Credit card auto payments, canceled. When mom asked, I simply said, the bank's slow this month. I watched as their comfort began to crumble. Dad's voice grew sharp. Clara, did you forget to transfer money for the mortgage? I looked him in the eye and said calmly, I thought you handled it this time. He blinked, confused. What do you mean? You always. Not anymore, I interrupted. The silence that followed was the sweetest sound I had ever heard. Within weeks, the house that once sparkled began to show cracks, literally and emotionally. The gardener stopped coming. The car payments bounced. Mom started calling me daily, her tone changing from proud to desperate. Clara, what's happening? The bank called again. Oh, did they? I replied softly. Maybe you should call Dad's business friends, you know? The ones you were celebrating with while I was in surgery. She fell silent. For the first time in years I felt free. One evening Dad came to my room. His face was pale, his tie loose. Clara, your mother and I made mistakes, he said slowly. But you're our daughter. Family sticks together. I looked at him, remembering his words years ago. We raised you. It's your turn to support us. You're right, I said. Family does stick together. But that night, you weren't family. You were guests at a party. He didn't say another word. He just left. And for the first time, I felt no guilt. The next morning, I packed a small bag. I left the house quietly, leaving a note on the kitchen table. Don't worry about bills anymore. You won't get another from me. I moved into a small apartment across town, nothing fancy, but mine. Peaceful, quiet. As I lay on my new bed that night, I whispered to myself, this isn't the end. This is just the beginning. Because what they didn't know was that every account, every loan, every debt was still in my name. And soon the banks would come knocking. When that happens, they'll finally understand what happens when the daughter they ignore stops saving them. I used to think revenge meant yelling, screaming, or breaking things. But no, real revenge is silence. It's watching people fall apart under the weight of what they built on your back. When I walked out of that house, I didn't just leave behind my parents. I left behind the version of me that begged for their love. Now it was their turn to beg. The first week after I moved out was strangely peaceful. No calls, no drama, just quiet. I woke up in my tiny apartment every morning to sunlight pouring through thin curtains, made myself black coffee, and finally, didn't have to rush to pay someone else's bills. But peace doesn't last forever. By the second week, my phone started buzzing again. Mom first. Then Dad. Then both. Clara, the electricity got disconnected. What's happening? The mortgage company called. They said the payment bounced. Answer me right now, young lady. I didn't pick up. Each message was like music. They didn't know yet that every luxury they had enjoyed came from my sacrifices. Now they were about to face the life I lived all along. 2 weeks later, I stopped by the cafe where I used to work. My coworker Jenna waved. Hey Clara, you look alive again, she said with a laugh. I finally started living for myself, I replied, smiling faintly. As we chatted, my phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. I ignored it. But the next second, a message came through. This is the Morgan Bank. Please contact us immediately about your home mortgage account. I chuckled softly. Of course, everything was still in my name. I had not told them that I had already changed the automatic payments and redirected the billing address to their home. Every notice, every overdue letter, every penalty was now going straight to them. I imagined Mom's face as she opened the mail, her manicured fingers trembling, the fake smile fading. It was not cruelty. It was justice. A month passed before I saw them again. I was at the grocery store, holding a basket of vegetables, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Clara? I turned. Mom stood there, pale, thinner, no makeup. Her eyes looked tired. For a second, I almost didn't recognize her. Gone was the proud woman who posted #luxurylife. Double quotes. Mom, she swallowed hard. Can we talk? We sat outside on a bench near the parking lot. She spoke first. Your father and we are in trouble. The bank froze the account. They said you removed your name from everything. I looked at her calmly. I did. But why? We're family. Were we family? I asked quietly, when I was in the hospital alone. Her lips trembled. We didn't know it was that serious. I cut her off. You posted pictures at a party while I was being operated on. Don't tell me you didn't know. She looked away, her voice barely a whisper. We made mistakes, Clara. I stood up. No, Mom, you made choices. And now, you live with them. I walked away before she could speak again. But that night, as I lay in bed, I felt a sting in my chest. Not guilt, just sadness that it had to come to this. 2 weeks later, I received another call, this time from Mr. Harper, the bank's financial officer. Miss Morgan, since you were the guarantor, we wanted to inform you that your parents' house is now in foreclosure proceedings. I exhaled slowly. Thank you for letting me know. Would you like to settle the amount to prevent legal action? No, I said coldly. Let them handle it. They always wanted to be independent, remember? He hesitated. Understood, Miss Morgan. When I hung up, I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt done. For years, I had carried them like a broken limb. Now, I was finally letting that limb heal. Dad always had pride sharp. Heavy pride that made him believe he was above everyone. But now, that pride was collapsing with every phone call, every letter. A week later, I received a message from an unknown number. This is Richard Morgan. Your father. Please call me. I stared at it for a long time before responding with one sentence. Now, you remember who paid your bills? No reply. But later that night, I got another message. We are losing everything, Clara. The house. The car. Your mother's losing her mind. Please do not do this. I typed slowly, every word deliberate. You already did this. The moment you chose champagne over your daughter's pain. I hit send, and then blocked the number. A month later, the Morgans' downfall became public. Their house was listed for auction. Neighbors whispered. Old friends disappeared. The same people who used to flatter my parents now crossed the street when they saw them. I saw it all through social media, the same place where Mom used to post her glamorous photos. Now the page was silent. No posts, no smiles, no hashtags, just silence. It felt poetic. I got promoted at work, head of operations at a local cafe chain. My boss, Jenna, smiled and said, You have got this strength in you. Clara, it's like you have been through hell and built your own ladder to climb out. I smiled softly. Something like that. My life became simple, but fulfilling. I bought new plants for my apartment, cooked my own meals, and paid my bills, not anyone else's. Every night, I had sit by the window with a cup of tea and look out at the city lights. That's when the thought would hit me. I finally own my life. It was raining when I saw them again. I was walking home from work when I noticed two figures sitting near a bus stop, soaked, tired. I almost walked past them. But then I heard Dad's voice. Clara? I stopped. They looked different. Dad's hair had grayed more than I remembered. Mom's eyes were swollen. She held a small plastic bag, their belongings maybe. For a moment, I just stood there, frozen between the past and the present. We have nowhere to go, Mom said quietly. We lost everything. I looked at them, heart steady. Part of me wanted to help. The other part remembered the cold hospital room, the empty silence when I needed them most. You'll survive, I said. You always said you were strong. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Please, Clara. Dad looked away, ashamed. We're sorry. I took a deep breath. Sorry does not erase pain. But I hope it teaches you something, that love is not a paycheck. I handed her an envelope. Inside was a check, enough to rent a small apartment for a few months. This is the last thing I will ever do for you, I said. Use it wisely. I turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard Mom's sobs, but I didn't turn back, because sometimes moving forward means never looking back again. A year passed. I never saw them again, but sometimes I'd hear from neighbors that they were living quietly in a small town, away from the city. I did not hate them anymore. Hate takes too much energy. Instead, I felt peace. They finally understood what it meant to earn something, to struggle, to survive. And I finally learned that love without respect is just dependency in disguise. If you are listening to this, maybe you have carried people who never thanked you. Maybe you have been drained by the same ones you love the most. Here's what I learned. You can't heal in the same place that broke you. Sometimes, walking away isn't cruelty. It's clarity. My parents once forgot who fed their bills. Now they remember. And me? I finally remember who I am.